A lot of people wonder about the mark of the beast. So let's do a special study and look at everywhere it's mentioned in Revelation. Stay tuned.
Holy Spirit, come and refresh me. Holy Spirit, come.
Welcome to Through the Bible in 5 Minutes, and this is one of our Revelation discussion topics. So it's not the regular studies that we try to go 5 or 6 minutes. This one's going to be a little longer, but we're going to look at every place where the mark of the beast is mentioned in Revelation and put all that together, and then you can pray and decide for yourself what you think that means to you. So, let's get started. The first place we're going to see it pop up is in Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. And as you can see at the top of the picture you've got in front of you, it's talking about the false prophet, or who I believe is the false prophet, with a 8 or 9 on my certainty scale. I'm pretty sure of that. And verse 16 starts kind of down the page a little bit there. It starts on the left where it says killed in blue, and then verse 16 starts. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on the right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one should buy or sell except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So that's 13, 16, and 17. And we see here first the mark is introduced, and it's right hand or forehead. Now remember, this could be symbolic as well, and a lot of people think it is, or it may be both, literal and symbolic. But your forehead can indicate what you think and where you come from. Your right hand, remember, is the one you use to do things with. So it may be more what you think and what you do than anything else, or again, it could be literal as well. Now the other thing to keep in mind here is the name of the beast and the number. Remember, Latin, Hebrew, and Greek all have numbers associated with names, and that's kind of where they come up with where they add it up and get 666 or things. So keep that in mind as well. So our next place we're going to look is in 14, verse 9. And in 14:9, you'll see in the picture you have in front of you, then the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives his mark on their forehead or on their hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they will have no rest, day or night, who worship the beast or his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name. So there we went through 14:9 and 11 and kind of tied them together. And what we see first of all is that there again is this mark and worship associated. Now I've looked at this and had a native Greek speaker read this, and it would make sense also that you can't just have the mark and not worship, or worship and not have the mark. It appears the two go together. Also, don't ever be afraid of getting this by accident. God is not going to allow you to be tricked into eternal torment. That shouldn't even cross your mind. And the next thing is, remember though, that this mark is used to indicate those who are essentially on the wrong team, so to speak. So that's where we're talking about the torment and where they're going. And again, don't get confused about the worship and things, because I'm sure it's going to be very clear. So don't let that intimidate you. Next place we're going to look is 15:2, and what I wanted to mention here at 15:2 is very interesting, because if you're looking for the word mark, you won't see it if your translation comes from the Sinaiticus Vaticanus, which is a closest to original group of texts that is used for many Bible translations, actually most of them except for King James and New King James, and New King James may have a little influence from that. But there, the word in the original language is more of a word that means image or likeness. So the word mark doesn't show up in 15:2 if you're looking at one of those translations. But if you're in King James or New King James, or any translations that come from the Textus Receptus, which is another grouping of closest to original text that we have, where translations are made from, then the word mark will appear. So, verse 15:2, I'll read from 15:1 to get you started. Then I saw another sign in heaven, a great and marvelous 7 angels, having 7 last plagues, for in them the wrath of God is complete. And now to 15:2. And I saw something like a sea of glass mingled with fire, and those who have victory over the beast and over his image and over his mark and over the number of his name, they were standing on the sea of glass, having the harps of God, and they sang the song of Moses. That's what it says in New King James, my favorite translation. Just so in case you're wondering what it says in NASB, it says, and I saw something like a sea of glass mixed with fire, and those who had been victorious over the beast and over the image and over the number of his name were standing on the sea of glass with harps of God, and they sang the song of Moses, and it goes on. So there's what both of them say, but again, the word mark doesn't show up in the NASB. The next place I want to go, 16:2, in the picture you see there, it says, then I heard a loud voice from the temple saying to the 7 angels, go and pour out the bowls of wrath of God on the earth. And the first bowl is where 16:2 starts. So the first went out and poured out his bowl upon the earth, and a foul and loathsome sore came upon the men who had the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. Then it's time for the second bowl. So again, we see primarily from this point on, the mark is used to identify who's on which team, essentially. And it's important to remember, too, that at the end we're going to summarize, and I think I'll just mention it here, that the key things about the mark that I see at any rate, now you pray about it and see yourself, but seem to be you can't buy or sell without the mark. It has the name or number of a man, and the characteristic of it's on the forehead or the hand. So those are things that are important to remember. So if you're worried about the mark being a vaccine, for example, or something of that sort, I really don't think that fits very well. Of course, you have to have a peace about what you do, but I don't agree with that. And again, I don't think you're going to get it by accident. Now, the last two passages, 19:20 and 20 verse 4, again, it's used mostly just as an identifier, I think. But let's read along and look at those. We'll start with 19:19 first to get context. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. And verse 20. Then the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet, who worked signs in his presence, and by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast, and those who worshipped his image. Those two were cast alive in a lake of fire, burning with brimstone. So again, it's an identifier there. And then going to chapter 20, verse 4. And I saw the thrones of they who sat on them, and the judgment was committed to them. And then I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for the witness of Jesus and the Word of God, and who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received his mark on their foreheads or on their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. So there you have it. Everywhere it's mentioned in the book of Revelation. Feel free to watch this again and chew on it for yourself. God bless you, and we'll see you next time on Through the Bible in 5 Minutes.